Picture this. Right now, as you're watching this video, a massive storm is raging above your head, not with rain or thunder, but with invisible magnetic forces powerful enough to knock out power grids and paint the sky with colors you've only seen in photos from Alaska. This isn't science fiction. It's happening today, June 1st, 2025. A coronal mass ejection, basically a solar hurricane, just slammed into Earth at over 4 million miles per hour. We're in the middle of what scientists call a G4 severe geomagnetic storm. That's one level below the maximum on the scale. And here's the wild part. If you live anywhere from California to Alabama, you might see the northern lights tonight. Yeah, you heard that right, Alabama. So what actually happened? 3 days ago, a massive sunspot erupted. Think of the sun as a giant ball of magnetic spaghetti that sometimes gets tangled up. When it untangles violently, it shoots billions of tons of electrically charged particles into space. This particular eruption lasted over 3 hours, which is unusually long, and it happened to be aimed directly at Earth. Lucky us! These particles are traveling so fast, they compressed multiple explosions into one superstorm. Space weather physicist Tamitha Skov says we're dealing with a complex, composite structure. Translation, this storm has layers, like an onion made of pure energy, and we're going to feel different effects as each layer hits. Now, you might be thinking this is just about pretty lights in the sky. Not even close. This storm could mess with your GPS, your internet, even your power. Remember that massive blackout in Texas a few years back? A storm like this could trigger similar failures across multiple states. Power companies are literally on high alert right now, ready to disconnect transformers if things get too intense. The science behind this is actually fascinating. When these solar particles hit Earth's magnetic field, it's like cosmic pinball. The particles bounce around, compress our magnetosphere, and eventually spiral down toward the poles. But when the storm is this strong, that spiral gets pushed way south. That's why people in Oregon, Wyoming, even Illinois might see the aurora tonight. Here's what makes this storm special. The particles are moving nearly 2,000 kilometers per second. To put that in perspective, they could circle Earth in about 20 seconds. The magnetic field orientation is perfectly aligned to cause maximum chaos. It's like the solar wind found Earth's weak spot and decided to exploit it. For those lucky enough to have clear skies tonight, here's your game plan. First, get away from city lights. Even a 20-minute drive can make a huge difference. Face north and give your eyes time to adjust. The best viewing times are around 1 or 2 in the morning when the sky is darkest. And here's a pro tip. Your phone camera might see aurora that your eyes can't. Take some long exposure shots even if you don't see anything obvious. Weather-wise, if you're on the West Coast, you're in luck. Clear sky if expected. But if you're in the Midwest or Southeast, Canadian wildfire smoke might block your view. Idaho and Montana folks, sorry, but clouds are heading your way. Alaska and Canada, as usual, you've got the best seats in the house. But let's talk about the not-so-pretty side of this storm. GPS systems are already experiencing disruptions. Farmers using GPS-guided tractors had to stop planting during the last big storm in May 2024. Airlines are rerouting polar flights. Satellites in orbit are getting bombarded by radiation and dragged lower by the expanding atmosphere. The really scary part, our power grid. These storms create what are called geomagnetically induced currents. Imagine invisible rivers of electricity flowing through the ground, looking for the easiest path. They find power lines and transformers and can overload them instantly. A study from 2008 found that a storm like the one in 1921 would destroy more than 300 transformers today and leave 130 million Americans without power. And this storm? It's approaching that level of intensity. Oil and gas pipelines aren't safe either. They're basically giant metal conductors stretched across the country. The induced currents can accelerate corrosion or mess with monitoring systems. Communication satellites are getting fried by radiation. Your internet, cable TV, even your cell phone could go down if the wrong satellite gets hit. What's really happening up there is a battle between two magnetic fields. The sun's magnetic field, carried by the solar wind, is trying to connect with Earth's magnetic field. When they snap together, it's like a magnetic explosion. Energy pours into our upper atmosphere, lighting it up like a neon sign. The green color comes from oxygen atoms about 60 miles up. Red aurora, which we might see tonight, comes from oxygen twice as high. This storm is part of Solar Cycle 25, which started in 2019. Every 11 years, the sun goes through a cycle of high and low activity. We're approaching the peak, called solar maximum, which means more storms like this are coming. In fact, another smaller CME is already on its way, expected to hit tomorrow or the day after. The crazy thing is, this might not even be the biggest storm this year. Last May, we had a G5 extreme storm, the first in decades. Scientists are watching nervously because our society has never been this dependent on technology during a solar maximum. Every smartphone, every GPS satellite, every power grid component is a potential victim. So what can you actually do? If you're in the viewing zone, definitely try to see the aurora tonight. It might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity if you're in the southern states. Take pictures, even if you can't see anything with your naked eye. Your camera sensor is more sensitive than your eyes. But also be prepared. Keep your devices charged, have some cash on hand in case payment systems go down. Know where your flashlights are. This probably won't turn into a disaster movie scenario, but being prepared never hurts. The storm is expected to continue through June 2nd or 3rd, with periods of severe activity. The aurora forecast shows potential visibility in 27 states tonight. That's unprecedented for this solar cycle. We're literally watching space weather make history. Scientists are learning incredible things from this event. Every storm teaches us more about how our star interacts with our planet. The data collected today will help predict and prepare for future storms. Because here's the thing, as we become more dependent on technology, we become more vulnerable to space weather. Your great-grandparents didn't care about solar storms, but for us, they're a real threat. What's really mind-blowing is that this invisible storm above us connects us to the cosmos in a tangible way. The same processes that create stars and galaxies are playing out in our backyard. The northern lights aren't just pretty. They're a reminder that Earth is part of a larger, more violent universe than we usually think about. What do you think? Are you going to try to catch the aurora tonight? Drop a comment and let everyone know if you spot them. And remember, even if you don't see the lights, you're still witnessing one of the most powerful space weather events in years. Just knowing it's happening above you right now is pretty incredible when you think about it.